Hey, 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 it is an unstoppable day. Welcome to From Felons to Fabulous TV. I'm your host, Terrence, the Unstoppable Coach Leffridge. From Felons to Fabulous TV is a show that allows you, the viewer, to see how formerly incarcerated citizens have come back into the community and have been able to prosper and to turn their felon life into a fabulous lifestyle. We talk to many different people from many different backgrounds, talking about how they have been able to use their story to inspire them to not only move to the next level of their greatness and become the best version of themselves, but if you listen, then you'll learn how maybe you can become the best version of yourself and move from your felon lifestyle into a fabulous lifestyle. Now, today's guest is Bill Kimble of the Bill Kimble Construction Group in Kansas City. Bill is doing a fantastic job of rebuilding his community and continuing the legacy that has been taught to him by his father and his grandfather and has been in his family for a number of years. We think this is a story that is going to bless you, and we hope that you'll stick and stay as you can watch From Felons to Fabulous TV. But before we get started with the show, I want to let you know about one of our upcoming events with BTBY. So stick and stay, and we'll be right back with From Felons to Fabulous TV.
Today on the show, I like to spotlight Bill Kimble. Bill is the true example of overcoming our community and not only making the difference, but being the difference. He has managed to transform himself from felon to fabulous by becoming one of Kansas City's biggest real estate developers within the urban core. He is also certified in almost every aspect of real estate and the construction fields. Please welcome Bill Kimble to the show.
All right. Well, thank you, Chuck. I sure appreciate the intro. It's a pleasure to be on your show today. My name is Bill Kimble, and I would just like to tell everybody a little bit about my life and a little bit about my story and how I became to be the man I am today. My father was an architect and general contractor. My grandfather was in real estate. So I was born to kind of do what I do. I've always felt that. As a little kid on the weekends, I didn't know it, but my father was training me and my grandfather was training me for entrepreneurism because my grandfather did real estate and he had rental properties. So each weekend I would cut like his yard and then 5 more yards. And then I would cut our yard at home and 5 more yards. But I didn't know it, but I was being groomed for entrepreneurism. So the beginning of my life started out very well, especially being African American. But unfortunately, it went from sugar to shack fairly quickly when substance abuse entered our immediate family. So that's what kind of took us down in a spiral. From that point on, juvenile delinquent, I went in the system at 14 years old and I got out at 40. So even in the juvenile system, I was in and out. I was certified as an adult at 17. And by my 18th birthday, I was already in adult prison. Just in and out of jail my entire life. But I'm born and raised in Kansas City, right from the streets of Kansas City. And I always had a passion and a desire to do more than what I was doing. I wanted more out of life, but I didn't know how to go about getting it. I didn't know how to harness that frustration that I felt, the frustration that I see so many in the urban core suffer from now. You say, how do I see it? I see it in the crime rate. Kansas City this past year, second all time, the amount of murders, second, almost broke their own record. That's frustration. And I know what they feel because I used to feel that same frustration of not being able to elevate, not being able to succeed, not being able to live up to my potential, being a victim of my circumstance. And I don't like that word. I really strongly dislike the word victim because I don't look at myself as a victim. I look at myself as a survivor and a person who wanted to change and was determined to change and someone who did change. So when did the change come in my life? I was in prison. I can almost remember the exact day, what was happening. I was reading a book, and it was called Think and Grow Rich by Dennis Kimbrough. And at that time, I went to the chapel, and you have booths in prison, so you can listen to a VCR tape. It was VCR tapes. They didn't have all the digital stuff they have now. But I listened to a tape of the minister Louis Farrakhan. Never listened to him before, so I don't know what made me listen to him at that point. But he said a speech, and he looked right in that camera, and he said, "Look at you. Look what you're doing to your people. You selling those drugs to your people. You nothing. You nothing." And I said, wow. It was a spiritual awakening in that little booth because the book that I was reading, Think and Grow Rich, was stimulating my business side. And now the minister Louis Farrakhan stimulated my moral side. From that day forward, I never had another dealing again. I changed my life that day. But now I still went to prison, and when I got out, I was still violated before, but I never did another crime. Getting in and out the system is hard to do on its own anyway. But after I got out of prison, I was determined to do better. I was determined. And before I went, like the last time, I own properties. I had a running ad in the newspaper, in the black newspaper called The Call. I had a running ad. And my father and I, we would rent houses. We would buy houses, fix them up, and rent them out. And it was unfortunate, but this made me learn because when I was released from jail, Jackson County came and got me from the feds. And when I was released, the person who owned so many houses, I was homeless. And I had the first place that I walked to, I didn't have a cell phone. I didn't have any money to call anybody. But what I did is I walked to the City Union Mission and I signed up. And that was a humbling experience for me to be able to own houses all through the city and then to be homeless. It was a spiritual awakening. But at that point, I told myself I'm gonna do better. I got back in school because I never finished high school, never finished my freshman year. My freshman year, first semester, I was kicked out of high school, never went back. But when I got out of prison, I went to school. I got an associate's degree in construction management. I went and got a bachelor's. Then I went and got a master's in real estate. I started up the construction company. And from that point on, I started in construction. I evolved into real estate. Then I evolved into development where I'm at now. And I like what I do. I do what I do, I could do for free. And I guess that's why I started a nonprofit, because I'm not so focused on the money. Because nonprofits can make money. Negative conception if you think nonprofits don't make money. They make plenty of money. But I wanted to give back to my community. The community that I took away from, I wanted to give to. I used to be part of the problem. Now I want to be part of the solution. And I feel that the best way for me to do that was through construction, was through real estate, was through development. When I drive past the raggedy parts of town, the desolate side of town, I can make that change, not just by house, but if I have to do it, I will go house by house. I'll go block by block. I'll go neighborhood by neighborhood. But to be a developer, you get to inflict change. I can change a neighborhood, and I like that feeling. Just like when you're on the streets, you do certain things and you get certain feelings. Well, being a developer gives me that gratification that I seek. I like the fact that I could take the worst house on the block and make it the best house on the block. I enjoy that. I enjoy teaching people what I know. A man can feed himself. you can stop the cycle of jail if you know a real trade. A real trade to me is construction. In construction is a carpenter, plumber, electrician, HVAC. If you get your certifications, you could live a life and you don't have to go back and forth. So my goal at that point was to teach as many people as I could construction, then to teach as many people as I can real estate, and then to learn development and be a good example for others in the development field. What I currently do now, I do what you call public-private partnerships. Those are like agreements with the city, partnerships with the city, or it could be the state as well for a good purpose. I do it for housing. So the city has an initiative to build X amount of affordable housing in the urban core. Then I would solicit a proposal to them, telling them how I would go about doing that. And the city would team up with me and partner with me. And I just love it. Not only is it lucrative, but you're actually making a difference. And that's something that I've always wanted to do. And it's something that I just feel good about doing now. So to sum it up, where am I going in the future? To me, the sky's is the limit. Kansas City can't hold me. Every day, I'm thinking about relocating my office at the downtown airport just so I can see planes flying in and flying out, just so my imagination can run. Because when I was in prison all those years, they couldn't take my spirit away. They couldn't take my imagination away. And every day I went somewhere else. I wasn't in those walls every day. My mind wasn't. I allowed my mind to wander. I allowed my mind to grow. And that's what I want to continue to do now. And I want to continue to try to help people see that side. I guess that might be my biggest frustration. If I had to have one, I think that would be my biggest frustration, not being able to cultivate relationships of like-minded people that want to do the same thing, as passionate, with the same drive. But I love construction. I love real estate. I love development. And I love being a part of the solution and not the problem.
Hello. I am sitting here with Bill Kimble. Man, let me tell you, this guy is amazing. Of course, I can't forget Miss Isabel Luce Camacho Black. We are doing From Felon to Fabulous. This guy right here, Bill Kimble, has went from tearing neighborhoods down to building communities, making a difference in people's lives. And when you hear his story, you're not going to even believe that he's only been out for 8 years. And I want to hear everything you've got to tell us that you've accomplished. So Bill, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, my name is Bill Kimble, born and raised here in Kansas City, Missouri. Always had a passion for neighborhoods, for communities. Always had the will and the drive to be in the construction field, the real estate field, and the development field. But I'm just a hard pusher. A hard worker is what I aspire to keep doing.
But you didn't used to be that way, did you?
I did not. I did not.
We have a lot in common, although we did our time completely different age groups. I went in later. You went in as a young man.
I did. I entered the juvenile system at 14. I was certified as an adult at 17. And by 18, I was already in the adult system.
And you weren't also the traditional guy that lived in the hood, running the streets. You didn't come from a broken home.
I did not. I come from a two-parent family.
Mm-hmm.
My mother and father was married my entire adolescence, all the way till I got to be an adult. My father was an architect, general contractor. My grandfather was in construction and real estate as well. Retired from the military and the post office, so retired from the government, and then he got into construction and real estate. But unfortunately, during the 80s, when the crack epidemic came through, that swept through our family as well. And we went from at the top to at the bottom very, very fast.
It happens. It does not discriminate.
Yeah.
It is a horrible drug. I mean, any drug is a horrible drug, but it devastates families.
It does.
And you don't realize you're there until you're there, trying to figure out how to get out.
Yeah. So I saw that from firsthand. You know, I went from seeing my father get awards from the mayor and the governor, businessman of the year, all the way to drug houses and, you know, all the way there, you know. So I do understand that. And so then that started my life into the streets.
My name is Andrea Luzon, Legacy Liberator. I'm a life coach. I'm an energy healer. I'm a speaker. I'm an author. I started working with Brenda Ringwood and Terrence Leftridge through the Become the Best Speaker course just 8 weeks ago. And I can already tell that I am a more confident stage speaker. I'd love to express the level of practice that we experienced. The team atmosphere in the container was life-changing. The people in that group, the people that you'll be together with they're really going to help you change how you show up as a speaker. So I highly recommend joining the program. Honor yourself. There is a little bit of homework. Let yourself dive into the homework, do the assignments on time, and then show up for every session. It is really going to change your life.
I entered the streets at that time, became involved in gangs, drugs, selling drugs. I think I had an anger inside of me because of the switch in my life. Not being a victim, because I've always said I don't like victims, especially me. I don't like to talk like a victim. But it's no real rationale of why I went to the streets, but I did. And when I went full blast. You know, I wasn't just out there just selling drugs a little bit or just hanging around.
You weren't testing it out, you were doing it.
I was in it. You know, I was in it 100%. I was in it 100%, the whole entire lifestyle. With all it entailed, it was me.
I actually heard you mention this in St. Louis just recently when you spoke. When you found yourself there, you were willing to accept accountability. And I think that what makes all the difference of how the trajectory of your life went moving forward, that accountability.
Because I did do it. And I liked my lifestyle at that point. Now, I didn't like going to jail, but I liked what the streets awarded me, you know. So, yeah, I enjoyed it when I was out. I wasn't just out there in the way. I sold drugs like a businessman would starting a business, you know, with a plan, with a strategy of how to grow my business and how to accumulate more product. And I had a whole strategy about it. So that's why it wasn't so hard to make the leap from the streets to business, because I do the same thing now.
It requires the same things to run, because you have to let go of the fear. You have to be willing to put yourself out there. I mean, I heard actually a podcast or a TED Talk or something one time, and it was to get one of the best CEOs in your company, pick a ex-drug dealer or pick a ex, because they said they have all the skills that it takes. All they need is to change their why. And it's very true, because I have that mindset as well. And I started also running the streets, selling drugs and then gangs, because it was what my parents did and my older siblings. So when you're young and on the streets, it's the way they desensitize our kids nowadays. You know, they're doing it blatantly in front of us, but as a young kid, and then you have no choice but to take it very serious if you want to survive. So I totally resonate with that part.
Look back, I couldn't tell then, but now as I look back, I was angry, and it showed in my actions. It showed in my day to day. See, when you wake up in the morning and you read the paper, or some people, I mean, most people don't read the paper now, except it's online.
Yeah.
But when you turn on the news or something like that, and you hear about shootings and robberies or something, I was that guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was the guy that you read about in the newspaper. I was the guy that's on TV.
So when you got arrested, and every time you went back in, nobody was, they just expected it.
Pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
But I couldn't get out the system. But it was a lot of us that couldn't get out the system. It's hard to get out the system.
It is.
You know, not being a victim, but being a black male in this criminal justice system here in America, it's hard.
Yes, it is.
Because you look at it now. You got people that was going to jail for marijuana. They got marijuana distilleries everywhere. So it seems like I get to go to jail for it, but now the general public just gets to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And it is somewhat unfair, but I could have made better choices at that time too.
So talk to me about your mindset when you went in at that young age. What did you go through? What did you think about? I mean, did you feel like your life was over? You know, what did you go through with that? What cycles?
I didn't feel like anything was over. What it did is it probably emboldened me on the streets, because on the streets, if you like a drug dealer, or you kind of stay low key, you kind of stay up under the radar, where you don't want people to know you. But see, in there, kind of elevated my status in there, because I was a leader and I had money on the street. So when I got in there, it was magnified. Now
you were a big dog in the prison.
Now I'm thinking that, and then I'm thinking when I get out, I'm thinking when these guys get out too, they're going to be loyal soldiers, and
you're already planning for the next thing.
Bigger and bigger and bigger. And so then as soon as I get out, it was so easy to come back to jail. It's so easy for our it could be your girlfriend, a woman, to say he hit me, he pushed me. So you're going back. It could be somebody say, he pointed a gun at me. You no evidence, no proof, no nothing. But guess what? They're gonna come snatch you up.
Yeah, they do.
Because an average person is guilty innocent till proven guilty. I'm guilty and I have to prove my innocence.
That's right.
So I never was allowed the opportunity to flourish. You know, it was I use the example of like a boxer, and he's not the champion, but he's number one. You know, you got the champion, then you got number one contender, and in boxing, you could duck that number one contender. You fight number two or number three. So I never got my shot. Whereas though if I could have devoted my time and my attention to something real, especially when I had that the mindset and the fearlessness at that age. See, now I'm more reserved. Now I pump my brakes. Now I think about a lot of things. You know, I do one thing at a time. But before I didn't. You know, I would micromanage stuff. I would be doing 3-4 things at a time, trying to open up this house and run this drug house and gangs over here. I would do all of that. Now is unbelievable. I plan everything I do. I mean,
and I can attest to that. So some things that you have said, just working with you, you said, don't give me 10 choices. Come to me with the best choice of what's out there. So give me a couple. And you said, my mind doesn't work that way anymore. And I thought it was interesting. And the reason I want to bring it up today is because you are focused on taking the best of the choices and then picking between those instead of having to worry about everything underneath it. And that's powerful, because in the past, you were having to juggle all of that to get it to rise up to the best choices. So now you're just taking the best and moving forward.
I changed my business style. At first, I was more of a micromanager. Now I delegate, because I look at the big CEOs of the big corporations. They don't make all the decisions by themselves.
No,
they have a whole team of people.
That's right.
And then those people that are in place has teams of people. And people do the field work, the grunt work. It just goes up the ladder. And then by the time he gets to the CEO's desk, really the decision might have been made at another level, but he's just signing off on it. But whatever it is, he or she didn't have to go through the whole process from start to finish. So in the streets, I said, I'm spending a lot of time. I was devoting a lot of my time in my life doing this. But business is totally different. And it's easier and better and more profitable.
So when you got out, you were about 40, weren't you?
I was.
You were finally.
Well, I was, I guess, almost 40.
Mm-hmm. What changed that you said no more?
I was in jail when I made the decision of no more. But even though I made the decision of no more, I still couldn't get out the system. Mm-hmm. So I made the decision years ago. But when I get back out on the streets, I didn't go back in and out of jail by selling drugs. Right. I haven't sold drugs since a teenager, early 20s. That was gone in. Really, as a teenager is when the last time that I sold drugs for real. Or in gang bang and stuff like that. I'm 48 years old. Mm-hmm. So when you look at it, it's like, wow, it was a long time ago.
But then when you got out, you went to school.
I did.
Said, I'm going to change.
It had a lot to do with my self-esteem. Mm-hmm. It had a lot to do with how society treated me every time I got out. It had a lot to do with how those guards talk to us. Mm-hmm. You know, they talk to us and say all kind of crazy stuff. And I felt belittled. And then my family has background in education on my father's side. Mm-hmm. My grandmother was a principal. My auntie was a corporate trainer and then taught at the community college. My other cousin is into the education system. So I seen it, you know. I could go to my grandmother's house. They play bridge. That was her game. And you could see the president of the school board there. Mm-hmm. I mean, but those were just people. Those are just her inner circle. So I seen education and I seen how if you educate yourself, you can have a good life. Because I'll give you an example. Sometimes white America won't deal with people like me because they don't know who I am. They don't know, in their mind, they don't know if you're one of the slick blacks or one of the good blacks or something. They really don't know, you know. And I say that with an open heart, you know, because some people want to deal with blacks, but they don't know. So sometimes if you go off outside appearance, you can't do that. Because a guy can look the part or a female can look the part and be professional and know the verbiage, know the lingo, and can talk real estate or something like that, and they are straight crook. I still had long hair when I got out. I still had golds all in my mouth, golds and diamonds all in my mouth. So I have a mentor, and I asked him. I said, "Well, what do you?" He's a rich white guy, and I said, "What's the problem? Why am I not excelling? Why isn't the world grasping me? Why isn't white society accepting me?"
You didn't look the part.
And he was like, for one, when I see golds in your mouth, I think drugs. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, that couldn't be farther from the truth. Because in our community, my grandma on my mother's side, my father's side, but that was a thing for black people. We like to have jewelry when we had gold teeth. Your great grandma and stuff, people had gold teeth. That was a thing of status. It had nothing to do with drugs. It just so happened that once
perception, it wasn't that way though.
It wasn't, you know, but that's the generalized society's perception. Mm-hmm. You know, long hair, they think you some type of player or hustler, pimp or something because you had long hair and permed out. And this. So I told myself I was already evolving and it was already on my list of things to do. And I had the mayor of Kansas City at that time, and he still is, a mentor of mine. And I told him, I said, man, I'm going to cut my hair because I was tired of it anyway. Messed up all my suits and stuff anyway.
There was a reason for it.
But he suggested that I be a part of this fundraiser. And it was a fundraiser. It was an African-American guy that wrote a book. And he gets all the awards. I hate that I forget his name right off the bat. But it's an excellent book. And it was called Crowns. And it was about a little black boy and his relationship with people in the barbershop.
Oh, wow.
Black men talking and having a relationship with fellowshipping with other black men in the barbershop. And so we did a fundraiser. And I had one of the best barbers in Kansas City. But Mayor James cut my hair live.
Wow.
You know, we donated the hair, the locks of love. Nice. But we did, it was on the news, you know, so he didn't allow me just to cut my hair. It had to be
Purpose.
something.
It meant something.
It meant something.
Yeah.
It meant something.
Mhm.
And that started the evolution. Then I did stuff like I took the golds and stuff out of my mouth, put braces on my mouth. I changed. I went and bought about 20 suits, 10 one time and 5 another and 5 another. Learning how to dress. Now I still dress in a lot of sweatpants and
That's
stuff,
okay.
but I don't have to dress up every day.
Right.
But what I did is I learned what my uniform is. If I was a mechanic, I would wear this. If I worked at certain jobs, you wear a uniform.
Yes.
So when I'm at City Hall or when I'm at the courthouse or when I'm in my business setting, my uniform is a suit. My uniform. I tell my son.
You went from stripes to a suit.
Yeah.
Love it.
You came out. You not just went and got education. You went and got educated. I mean, you took it the whole way. You came out and you took it all the way to a master's degree in real estate.
That's how we met.
Yes.
Your graduation, someone posted a congratulations to you that I was a mutual friend of that I had never met either, but I saw your picture in your gown and I read the honoring they typed up for you and the tribute, and I knew I had to meet you. I knew I needed some of what you had because you were making shit happen. And I was in that evolution where you just spoke that you were transitioning into something way bigger than me, my past. It was that master's degree you said yes to and you achieved. And tell us about that.
And I may or may not be done.
Good for you.
I'm still thinking about a doctoral in real estate. But being that when I first got out, I couldn't get a job. Because the last time I got out,
listen up, guys. This is important because for those of you who have never been in the system or don't have a family member that's been in the system and you don't understand how hard it is to find a job, let alone coming from his background to get a job, being a Black man living in a not so good part of town, it's hard. And then when you add prison on top of it. So I want to start with that. So you couldn't find a job.
I could not find a job. But it's important to note that when I got out this last time, I still had an associate's degree. I earned associates before I went back this last time. So when I got out, I was already a business owner in construction, was already doing real estate, and had associates in construction management. And I couldn't get a job sweeping the floor. I couldn't get a job being a laborer anywhere. And I'm a finished carpenter by trade. And at first I went to the unions because I know my skill set.
Right.
Nobody. And I still remember what happened. While I was in jail, African Americans have a paper called The Call. And The Call was almost like the Bible because wherever you at, if you got a call, that kind of keeps you connected to your community. So I saw an African American that was president of the local 264, and his name was Les Williams. So I cut him out the paper. I just cut it out the paper, and I wrote him a letter. And I just said, hey, I don't know you, but I see you. I'm proud of you. And I appreciate you. And he wrote back. I didn't ask for a write back. I didn't do it for dialogue, but I wrote him. He wrote me back and just said, hey, thank you. I appreciate what you said. And if you ever need some help, when you get out, come talk to me. So I was like, wow, okay.
That was
cool.
impressive.
That is neat.
Yeah. But at that time, I was thinking, well, I'm a finished carpenter by trade. You know, you got different levels of carpentry, but I'm a finished carpenter. So I'm thinking I'm at the top of the heap. And I was like, well, I really didn't want to go to be a laborer. That's a lot of hard work. And but when I got out and I was looking for jobs, and then I did go to meet him. But of course, he's the president, and he got meetings everywhere, and this, that, and other. But I did meet him, and I didn't know it at that time. But labor unions don't hire you; they kind of refer you. Okay. So they refer you out, but it's still on the individual contractor to interview you and like you. And see, sometimes they might say, "Well, give us 10 people. We need 10 people for 2 weeks." But the real people, the core of their crew, they come and they interview and they want to hire their own people. I couldn't get on. And in the halfway house, you have a period of time before you have to find a job. And if you don't, you go back. So what they did is they extended me. And I was happy, but I was trying every day. I even did stuff. It was Burger King on 47th and Prospect. I even went up there and said, "Hey, man, I know this is for a lot of younger people work here, but I can work in the day. I don't care if I'm getting gum out the parking lot. I don't want to go back to jail."
Right.
And they said there wasn't no jobs open. And because of my felony, that's what I was thinking that it was. Because at first they was like, "Hey, sure." But then as soon as they found out I was a felon, they was like, "Well, we don't have any jobs right now, but we'll keep you in mind." And so the last day, this is extension, they're not going to give me any more days. So, and this is why I still look so fondly on this guy, Les Williams. He had a lot to do with saving my life. I told my family, my immediate family, that I'm going back to jail. I said, when I go back to the halfway house today, they're going to lock me up. It was already Friday. They already told me, when you come back, if you don't have a job, you're going back. And so I was emotional at that time. And because I wanted my son to be proud of me. I wanted my kids to be proud of me. So I told everybody goodbye, and I packed up my stuff, and I went back to the halfway house, preparing to get locked up. And when I came back in, they said, "Kimble, you got a message." First, when I came through the door, they said, "Do you got a job?" I said, "No." They said, "Well, you know the routine." And then somebody in the back came and said, "Hey, you got a message." And so I said, "Okay, what's the message?" And I looked, and it was the guy's number, and it said, "I start Monday." And that changed my life. I said, I'm going to use construction to help other people change their life, because that allowed me to work hard every day, to feel like a man, and what I call it. I'm working a job. I'm working with my hands. But it made me feel good when I got my paycheck and stuff that I did something.
So let's move it forward then. So, I mean, we're sitting in your office now. He's in the 18th and Vine District. This is his neighborhood. He believes in his community. He lives in this community. He works in this community. What got you started doing what you're doing right now?
I got tired of my community being a victim. This area is not good. And they go downtown and they complain, "Why y'all not helping us on housing? We don't have curbs and sidewalks. White people side of town, north of the river is so good, and ours is so bad." And I'm like, let's fix it then.
Yeah.
Let's fix it. Are we going to wait for City Hall to do it? That's not their job. Right. They score projects when you bring them a project. They're not going to create the project. Right. This in particular bunch that was very vocal, but it was more complaining to me. And that's how I viewed it. But I said they're somewhat unsophisticated as far as the process. And I said, I'm going to learn the process. And I'll be able to help them because I'll know the process. Right. And I'll be able to put projects together. So when they say, "Hey, we need a new strip mall in our neighborhood," or "We want CVS in the neighborhood," I'll be able to go acquire the land, contact CVS, get in on a feasibility study on the site plans, and let them know this is what we want to do, get them on board in the beginning. And guess what? The community says they want it. CVS said they want to be here. And then I can put that together. As a developer, I'll buy the land, build the structure, and then sell it to the CVS or get a long-term rental. But at what point do we stop complaining? I had to do stuff like I would go to City Hall, in the city council meetings. I would just sit there. Kansas City has a department, a division called the EDC, Economic Development Corp, and they have meetings. Each one umbrella organization has their own meetings, and it's open to the public, but nobody never really comes. Right. unless you're a developer or a lawyer and your project is in front of them. But I would go as a student.
Listen.
I would go. I would go and I would listen and I would learn, and I learned the lingo, I learned the verbiage, and then I was going to school at the same time. But my school education really conflicted of what I was learning, because my school education was almost kind of teaching me how to be an employee. It really wasn't teaching me how to be a visionary.
Yes.
But my dad had already put that in me, of how to be a visionary. So, but and school teaches you a structured way, that's tried and true, on nicer parts of town. But that necessarily doesn't work in the hood.
Right.
And it doesn't work at all in the hood.
Yeah, you have different property values, you have different perception values of what's
Everything
going on,
is
you have different life values, and it's completely different.
So here I am learning, educating myself every day. But at the second I leave the college campus, I'm going back and doing it the way I only know to do it. But I learned it this way, but I couldn't execute it that way.
So you had to take what you learned and apply it differently.
I blended it in.
And everybody needs to take note on that, because even if you're educated through an educational system, you were educating yourself by going and putting yourself in those meetings and stuff. But even when you seek coaches or advice from other people, it's always just to give yourself knowledge and more information, but it's up to you to take that information and all that knowledge and put it forth how you deem necessary to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish, because we're not looking for cookie cutter here. We want individuals to stand up in their truth.
Yes.
And I love that you said that, because it's been important for me in my life too. I love seeking guidance, but I have to take that and then I have to go within and seek my Creator's truth and where He wants to guide me with all that knowledge. And then that's the step that I need to take forward.
But Bill, you even took it further than that. So you ran for an office and you won.
I did.
Talk a little bit about that.
I ran for 16th Ward committeeman, Jackson County committeeman. And that's the lowest of the totem pole.
But you still tried.
Running. And the first time I lost, and the second time I won. And I served 2 years. But when it was time for me to run again, the political apparatus made me step down because I was a felon. Right. Not because I did anything improper or wrong.
But you were the felon before you got put in office.
So I kind of slipped through the cracks, so they say. But I didn't slip through the cracks. I mean, I should be able to me, in my opinion, I should be able to sue the government if that's the case. Right. It's in the Constitution: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So I can't.
Already done your time.
I can't pursue happiness. Right. I should be able to pursue happiness. I should be able to build within my community, within myself, within my family, and within my community. I should be able to build until I decide I want to stop. Right. I shouldn't have to be told, "Well, you got to step down." For what? I'm doing a good service.
Right. Exactly. But you were being judged.
And I couldn't run for anything else.
Right.
Like I say, I was just getting that, it was the beginners, committeemen or school board, and it goes different levels, state rep, and you go kind of up. Well, I wanted to be a part of that. I wanted to help bring change into my community. I wanted to be the voice. I wanted to be able to go back to the neighborhood and say, hey, this is how you do this grant money, and this is how you do this, and this is how you do that. And one more thing that I did that I wanted to do, that I thought was important, is I wanted to stay authentic to me.
Yes, that's important.
I didn't want to change. So many times in the African American community, you might have this one African American, and he or she has the skin color, but they don't share the same ideology.
Right.
I didn't want to be one of them. I'm not going to be one of them. It's a lot of gatekeepers, and you run into them, and it's they're aware.
You ran into them quite frequently.
I do.
Yeah.
But I could deal with them. My daddy taught me. He said, sometime in business, you got to do deals with the devil. Now, I'm not saying that they devils, because I deal with other stuff on spiritual levels and everything.
General, right.
I could do deals with anybody. You know, in politics, you don't have any permanent enemies. You know, you have permanent interests. You
That's
know,
a good way of putting it.
if we're working together, only thing I care about in business, I cash checks.
Yes.
That's what I do.
But you also do more than that.
I mean, but that's in business. But I'm
Right.
saying in the community, I care about growth.
Right.
I care about building.
But you're cashing checks. You care about your community, but you've even taken it a step further. You give people affordable homes. You give people an opportunity to have something that they've never had before. And let me tell you, I've been in and out of his office now for a couple months, and I answer the phones periodically when he's on the other line. I can't sit and not do something. And I hear things on the other line. What he's telling you is exactly what he's doing. These people are saying, hey, I need help with this, or do you have a 2-bedroom? I need a Section 8. I drove by this property at XYZ address and I've seen the construction. How do we move forward? He's making a difference. He's actually doing what he says he's doing. And in his community, you could take your knowledge, you could take your money, and you could go and make even more money in another community.
And I thought about it once or twice.
Yes, but you've chosen your community. Not
Or
to
at
say
least
you
to
might not
start-
do that again later,
Or
but
to start
here.
in your community. And that's so important. It's
Yes.
so important. I commend you for that. And we already know you're going to be doing way more great
That
things.
says something about your character.
So
Smart man.
I just told my son a couple of weeks ago, I just said, hey, you running for state rep in 2 years. He's like, oh, okay. But guess what? It's in his mind. We're going to run and you're going to
Good for
win.
him. That's right. Yes, he
You
is.
know, so I don't have to do it. I don't have to be the one to do it.
No, you
But I can be a main part
You're
in his
part
life.
of it, yes.
And I can help guide him through the
And
process.
look what you're doing now, because I don't know if you remember, we had a conversation. We've had many conversations. We've been talking now probably since, I don't know, September, October. And this is now March. I said something about raising kids just in conversation. And you said, I don't know what that's like. The guy that didn't raise him, the guy that was in prison, is now this young man's mentor. And I know that because I've had this conversation with him.
I would hope that would be true.
Yes, and he's very proud of you, and I think your entire family is proud of you. You know,
I think that I have my inner core. I think I have a fantastic support base as far as my inner core. Now, when you get outside that inner core,
that's when jealousy starts to happen.
Face challenges.
Yeah, they can't wait for you to.
but
mess
my
up
inner
again.
core, if I got some issues or something, on a personal level, I can go to people that know and love me and get real good advice. And I would tell everybody, get mental health screenings.
And you follow that advice yourself, don't
I do.
you? Yes.
I tell people, when you've been in prison X amount of time, there's certain things that went on in your head that you need to be able to readjust back to society.
Yeah.
You know, because something that happens in prison totally different than happens in here. People outside, they say all type of crazy, weird stuff. You can poke the bear out here. You can't poke the bear in there.
No.
You know, it's going to be a big problem. But see, out here, people can call you out your name and say anything to you, and you can't even really say nothing. And it's you got to, what they say, congratulations, you the bigger person. You always, I'm tired of being the bigger person. I'm exhausted being a bigger person.
As you should be.
But out here, you have to be the bigger person. So I would tell people, get mental health screening. You know what I'm saying? If you got some anger or frustration or some unresolved issues when you was growing up, or relationships, you know, it makes you undeveloped in that aspect of your life. Like somebody else my age, they have been in love and hurt and married and divorced or whatever their situation may be. I have not. So here I get in a relationship and I have to learn patience. I have to ask her to be patient with me as well. And I might need, I'm not like a regular, like a lamp and you plug into the wall and that socket. I'm like the wash machine or dryer socket. I'm a bigger socket. But I have to learn how to express that to my mate to give her a warning that I need certain things. I might need you to stroke my ego every now and then. I might need that, you know.
And it's okay to ask.
Communication sounds like communication is something that you're practicing to help make everything work. in your life, and that's very important. And I want to say, is it a great segue to BTBY, something you said a minute ago of your inner circle? You know your inner circle is solid, but I kind of got a sense of a longing for to add people right to that, to grow your circle. But that's dangerous. That's scary. That's especially coming from a past like yours. But that's what BTBY is to allow all of us to extend that. We have our sacred circle, but we want to extend and grow and bring other people into our lives. And it's going to take
circle to become their circle.
Yes, and it takes time to get in that inner, but BTBY is full of like-minded people that are looking for the same exact thing that we're talking about.
Absolutely. And for those of you that don't know, Becoming the Best You, that's what that stands for, BTBY. And it's an organization of overcoming challenges, which has now branched out to the From Felon to Fabulous, because we had an issue with BTBY that somebody couldn't accept change. And they made it known to a group of people that change isn't real. It's all an act. So we decided that, you know what, it is real. And people, just like with you got kicked out of your position that you won, honestly, because you were a felon, that it's time for people to see felons as people that they can change. Now, there's some that don't, but there's also people out there who've never been to prison that are worse than some felons sitting behind bars. But if you want to change and if you want to become better, that you can be. And, you have a pardon sitting on a governor's desk right now. And I think with all the work that you're doing, that something's going to happen and that pardon's going to come through. If that were to happen, can you run for office?
I would be able to.
Mm-hmm. So see, I think.
But now I think I'm content with helping my son run.
Of course, absolutely, and as you should. But at the same time, folks, we need some help getting his pardon off of that governor's desk. So if we could get some phone calls to the governor of Missouri for Bill Kimble, he's reaching out, he's making a difference, he's not being selfish about it. And there's something else that you told me that you probably don't even remember telling me. He said, I live a low-key life because I don't want it to be about me. Because you said, I just now got a brand name car. I've been driving rust buckets. And even with that, you didn't get a brand new one. Because you said, I love my community. And you don't want to be somebody that you're not. So,
nor do you want to make yourself a target.
And that's where I was going next. That's exactly what you said. And what would that look like in your community to be a target?
If people don't have things and you do have things, well, they look at you when you've been in prison, so they know you can't have a gun.
So why should you have it? Yeah.
No, but you don't have a gun.
Right.
That's how they think.
You can't protect yourself.
So, well, you don't have a gun. So if they do rob you, I mean, you could be the biggest Chiefs player, play for the Chicago Bears, but you can't stop a gun.
Nope,
and a bullet. So if somebody robs you, they'll take what you have. So you don't want to overdo it and then become that star person that everybody is after. So what I wanted to do, I didn't want to create any havoc or chaos. I just wanted to blend into my surroundings and be a diligent worker. I don't have to be the spotlight. I used to be the spotlight. Back in the days, hustling, drugs, I was the spotlight. I don't have to be the spotlight now. As a matter of fact, I shy away.
You've come. I mean, that is a huge step because a lot of people want that spotlight.
I'm happy with just having a beautiful wife, and my wife beautiful, and everybody give her the kudos when she walks in the room. And I'm just the guy opening the door for her. That's what
makes you fabulous, Bill.
Love it,
Bill. It really does. And I mean, this is the first show that's airing. We've already filmed several shows, but we've decided to make Bill our first episode because he's in our community. We work with him. We've seen the changes. He's not just about the money. He's about making the difference. And that right there, not just move. He could have moved away. We had a conversation about that. How people grow up in the hood and then they move away and they don't know what it's like anymore. They forget where they've come from. he's chosen to not forget. And I think that is absolutely wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. So we wanted to lead with Bill because we want your help for him to get this pardon. Let's see if we can get this pardon. Let's get the word out there. Let's everybody get on those phones.
At one point in time, it was big.
It's still big.
But I've been waiting on it for so long. First, you go through administrative process. Then it's another little process it goes through, verifying everything. And then it goes to a political process. And the way it is now, in Missouri, Kansas City, and St. Louis is kind of a Democratic stronghold. Rural Missouri is Republican. And you really don't catch it jiving too often. So a lot of times somebody like me who could very well benefit his community, but you stuck in the political side that I'm not a Republican and I'm from Kansas City, and it's like I'm not a priority, at that point. So that's why I say a lot of the times now, because for years I pressed hard, and I had a passion. But now I think that I'm content with pushing that passion into my son as long as he wants to do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think it's amazing. Well, Bill, tell people how they can get in touch with you if they want to hear more about you. You know, he's got a chapter coming up in our Becoming the Best You anthology. It's our first book. He's going to have a chapter in there, so you're going to get to read more about that. Isabel's in it. I'm in it. A couple of other of our B2BY people are in it. And it's a good way for you to hear more about not just Bill, but other people inside of our circle. But he's even going to do bigger things. You know, we're going to have to come back and interview him a little bit later to just kind of see where he's going, what he's done, what he's accomplished. You're going to be amazed at what he's got in store. How do people get in touch with you?
Born and raised in Kansas City. 18th and Vine is my area. But it's not going to be too hard to find me because, like with your help, hopefully we have a book coming this year talking about construction and real estate and development. We're getting close to being able to have a pilot for a reality show on development. And that's big. That's big. And the reality show is going to be, it's not going to be like a flip this house type of show. It's going to be whereas though I'm going to take people through the process of locating properties, planning and zoning, the permit process, getting licenses, feasibility studies, the whole gamut, but some of the stuff that you don't see on the Flip This House show, you turn it on for 30 minutes, it's the old house, and 30 minutes is a brand new one. Well, I'm going to take you through the process. And I want people to understand that it is a process and you can do the process too. So what does that mean? You could do what Bill Kimble does in Kansas City. You could do it in your city. And then I can come. See, what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate what I do here. And anywhere where there's an urban core, I can come. Anywhere there's a hood, I'm on my way.
And there's hoods everywhere.
Yeah. If you want to meet Bill Kimble in person, get to Kansas City in August at the Becoming the Best You experience. It's the next one, and he'll be there, and you can meet him in person, talk about more what he does, how you can do it too, and come check out his community.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Bill. I am proud to be associated with you. You are making a difference in people's lives, and that stretches beyond your community. So thank you for coming. You know what, guys? Stay tuned. We've got more coming up. Fabulous people who have done prison time, made changes, making a difference in the world. And we're here to educate that felons are people, just like you, just like me. I am one. Isabel is not. Terrence is not. But we see people for who they are, and we see you. If you want to be on the show, give us a call. Reach out to Brenda Ringwood about anywhere. Look up for Isabel Luz Camacho Black anywhere. We are here for you. Terrence Etheridge, Mr. Unstoppable himself, will reach out to you. Call us. Come see us. Going over to FromFelonToFabulous.com. Thanks for watching, guys.